Hello everyone, this is David, Fairly Secret Music. Today I'm doing the 2020 vinyl tag. Obviously I am not a vinyl guy, but I can make this look like I have records in front of me, so just pretend they're vinyl. I'm a CD guy, as you can see behind me. So, I decided to answer these questions, and actually I'm going to pull this whole thing up further so I am not behind the light, so it's in front of me. So anyway, let's just get right to it. Best find of 2019 is the band The Tea Club for me. These guys were touring with Thank You Scientist and Bent Knee, and it turns out that I like these guys way better than both of those other bands. This was the album that came out in 2012 called Quickly, 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 and they have a song on here called I Shall Consume Everything, and I must have listened to this album probably there's only 4 songs on it, right? 1, 2, 3, yep. There's 4 songs on it. I probably listened to this like 15 times in a row before I took it out of my car. So that is question number 1. Favorite album of 2019? There wasn't a lot of great stuff that came out. Honorable mentions is Candlemass's new album, a couple reissues of King Crimson stuff, which one of which I'll show later, the new Magma album, but this one really just grabbed me when I needed it to be awesome, and I was in a big thrash mood at that time. So this one, I would say this is the album of the year for me. It's called End of Chaos. And if you're not familiar with Flotsam and Jetsam, they are a thrash band from Texas, I believe. And they have a singer that actually can sing. And their drummer is Ken Mary, who played with House of Lords, Alice Cooper, Chastain, just tons of bands. And he hasn't been around that I know of for a while, and then suddenly he appeared on this. Apparently he helped produce the drums on their last album that Jason Bittner played on. Novelty album or record, I do not have any novelty stuff, but I thought I had Sting narrating Peter and the Wolf. It turns out I didn't. I had Christopher Lee's, but that made me think of Sting's If on a Winter's Night, which is kind of a novelty because how pretentious is this? Inspired by Sting's favorite season, If on a Winter's Night takes traditional music from the British Isles as its starting point and evolves into a compelling and personal journey with music spanning over 5 centuries. An evocative collection of lullabies, carols, and songs, Sting's new album celebrates the many facets of winter before the snow melts and the cycle of the seasons begin once more. If that's not pretentious, I don't know what is. There are some decent things on here. I love winter too, but I would never do an album like inspired by my favorite season. And I like the winter now again. I'm just kind of this winter because I'm still reeling from the job that I had, which was mail carrier, because the winter really is difficult on mail carriers. So hats off to everybody who's sticking with it. I switched to a new job. Homage cover. So this is the original Nick Drake, Brighter Later. And this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. This is the Boris cover. It is the exact same colors, but because of how I'm showing you this, that is the Boris album. I don't own the Boris album. I own the Nick Drake, though. So, there you have it. B-side or deep cut, I had to go with Mary, Queen of Arkansas from Greetings from Asbury Park. Does not get the recognition it deserves. It is such a great album. It's probably my favorite song on this album, behind Lost in the Flood, which is also a deep cut, because most people don't know this album, and most people don't know that Blinded by the Light and For You were on this album, and they were both covered by Manfred Mann. Or maybe you do, who knows. Something Funky. Donny Hathaway, The Ghetto. There is a bass line in this song that is so awesome, and because YouTube kind of sucks, I can't play it, but I do have my fancy little Wish bass here. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but boom, bum, ba-dum, bow-down, ba-da-dum, bow, boom. That bass line could live rent-free in my head for weeks. Don't know if I've ever shown this bass. I may have. Fretless, no lines, has dots, but I love it. It's fantastic. When it's recorded, it sounds like an upright bass. Hopefully, me playing that bass line doesn't get this blocked, but oh well. Weird Shelf Buddies. Neil Young. Not this album. I'm putting everything in chronological order. I went through all of my prog rock, and I just finished Cheap Trick last night. It was in the rock, modern rock, classic rock type stuff. So Neil Young Harvest would probably not technically be right next to it in chronological orders, but Neil Young of Any Kind right next to Z Shampoo Horn. I thought that was pretty funny. Something weird. I Was There, a band I've seen live. I saw all 3 tours of Mr. Bungle, and this first album was by far the best show. One of the top shows I would have seen besides Fates Warning and Thought Industry, but I'm going to talk about one of those later. Wish I had the original copy, but have a repress. I have the exact opposite. I have the original CD version of Peter Hamill in a Foreign Town. The guy on Amazon or eBay, I can't remember where I got it, said this was the remastered version, and then I got it, and it was the original, which I don't technically mind because, excuse me, it still sounds great, but I have all the remasters of everything else. Releases, discography you own. You own all the major releases of an artist or artists you own the most of. I own a lot of complete discographies. If I like a band, I will want everything by them. I'll even get the shit albums that you shouldn't want. But I own everything of King Crimson. I own actually 3 different copies of this damn album, In the Court of the Crimson King. This is, I believe, the what version of... I'm not even sure what year this came out. I don't know what version this one is. It's a weird digipack. And then this is the 40th anniversary. So this must be the 30th anniversary. And then I have the 40th anniversary, which comes with a DVD in 5.1. And then this, which comes with, oh God, what is it? 3 CDs and a Blu-ray. Steve Wilson mixed it. This was the first King Crimson Steve Wilson mixed. And then 10 years later, he decided he could do a better job. Is there a huge difference? On the stereo mix, I don't think it's a ton difference. The Blu-ray I have yet to listen to. Let's see. Unique center label. Because I do not get vinyl, I don't have any unique center labels, but I decided to replace that with unique packaging. What it is, this is Rhino Records Funky Soul and Rare Grooves box set. It is a 4 CD box set spanning from 67 to 77. And this is a really hard cardboard, and the lid opens like that. And as you can see, that is how thick the cardboard is. Let me hold that up to like if you're holding a CD up. So it's a little thinner than what the thickness of a CD, but it's still pretty cool. Super hard cardboard there. And then this is where all the CDs are housed, and there are 4 of them in these slip cases, but it has that cool little thing like that. And then this is the huge, like, I don't know how many pages this book is, but it is a lot, pretty damn thick. So that is in place of the unique center label, unique packaging, which I thought this was awesome. Pre-band, album or band that features someone who went on to be famous. This is How We Live, which is the band Steve Hogarth was in before he became the second and current singer for Marillion. And the cool thing is, this album's called Dryland, and Marillion heard that song and decided they wanted to do a cover of it. So on the Holidays in Eden album, they covered one of their new singers' old songs. Musical book or movie you'd recommend? Bandwagon. If you can find it, I don't know where you'd be able to find it. I have it on VHS, and I don't think it was ever put out on DVD. I would get it in an instant if I found it on DVD. It's about this band who, they start out as a garage band, and they start getting kind of popular with small town radio. And, oops, sorry, that was my ringtone for my texts. And they go on a small tour, and every song that the singer writes is dedicated to a girl named Anne, who he's madly in love with. And it has Kevin Corrigan, who has been in quite a few indie movies and TV shows. It's just really awesome, and it has some really great lines in it too. So Bandwagon. This is the soundtrack for it. If you want to get an idea, check out, just type in Bandwagon, It Couldn't Be Anne. That gives you a good idea what the band sounds like. Underrated album. The very first Masters of Reality. This is done by Chris Goss. He has went on to produce a ton of stuff, a lot of stoner rock stuff, but this album is fantastic. It's had several different covers. This is the 2-disc set. Is it 2 discs or 3? Nope, it's 2 discs, has a huge poster with it. This is one of the alternate versions of the cover, which uses a little bit of the original cover. And this was, when you got the cassette, it folded out into that artwork. But there are such great songs on there. Candy Song, John Brown, Domino, Kill the King. It's just fantastic. It's just great rock, with kind of a bluesy feel to it, but just different. It was just different. And their second album has Ginger Baker. That's called Sunrise on the Suffer Bus. Let's see. Batting average, artist, band who consistently makes good albums. I'm going to say Tragically Hip were one of those bands. They constantly were making great albums, but I will say their 2 albums that they did, this is the first one, this is the second one. The 2 albums that they did with Bob Rock producing were fantastic. Bob Rock said he wanted to make the great Canadian album, and they hit it out of the ballpark on World Container, and then they followed it up. Let me double check. Yep. They followed it up with We Are the Same, and this album kicks off with a song called Morning Moon that is fantastic. Unfortunately, Tragically Hip's singer died a few years ago, so nothing more from them, but they have tons of albums that you can go back to if you have never heard them. Same album, different cover. Oops, I keep on hitting this thing. I always thought this was the original Time in a Word cover for some reason. And as I was chronologically organizing my Yes stuff yesterday, I realized, no, the remaster has this cover. I had this, but then I got this from my nephew when he got rid of a bunch of stuff. That's how I have like multiple copies of Genesis and Yes, and I think those were the only bands that I would buy stuff for him when he was younger, and he kept all the stuff that he knew he would listen to, but started getting rid of CDs like 10 years ago or something like that. So Time in a Word original cover, and I think this is like an American cover, something like that. Album you bought cheap, but now it's worth money. The box set by Fanny. I bought this, I think, for $40 or $60, and it is a 4-disc box set. I'm going to hold it upside down. It looks like this. And then comes with a super awesome booklet. They were an all-female band from the 70s. They did one album after this stuff that is in this. This is the, what do they call this? The first time in a long time, the Reprise Recordings. So they did one album with a different lead singer, I believe. And that was the woman, I believe, who played Pinky Tuscadero on Happy Days. Who, I don't think in real life she was Suzi Quatro's sister, but on the show she was Suzi Quatro's sister, Leather Tuscadero's sister. So I paid like 40, or I think I paid $45 for this or something like that. maybe 60. I'm not 100% sure. But now it goes for like 175 is the cheapest that it's on Discogs. I didn't check eBay. Right now there's like 3 that have like $200 price tags on them. Sorry if I keep on moving this. Let's see. Favorite drummer? Mark Zonder in Faith's Warning, especially on this album in particular. He was the hugest influence on the way I play drums and things that I do, almost to a fault, because I kind of got stuck in the rut of that kind of thing. 4 other drummers that are huge influences, or my favorite, the drummer from Third and the Mortal is fantastic. Bill Bruford, Dustin Donaldson from Thought Industry, and there was another guy that I love. Well, Sean Reinhart, who just passed away, and Neil Peart, who also just passed away. That was favorite drummer. I screwed these up. Album turning 20. So King Crimson, The Construction of the Light, came out in 2000. And it was a pretty good album, but he used electronic drums on the whole thing. When they came back to the 40th anniversary, well, technically the 40th anniversary series, 20th anniversary of this, they didn't have those files for his electronic drums. So Pat Masloto went back and re-recorded the whole thing, and they named it The Reconstruction of the Light. Different covers there, obviously. And this made a pretty okay album into a pretty fantastic album, just because of the quality of how the drums sound now, and it just made it a more exciting album. So if you are interested in later day King Crimson and don't want the live stuff, I would go with Reconstruction of the Light, because it is like night and day from the original, and the mix is way better. Trilogy of albums, 3 solid albums back to back from the same artist bands, should be a connecting thread. I don't know what you mean by connecting thread, but King's X first album, King's X second album, third album. So we have Out of the Silent Planet, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska, Faith, Hope, and Love. And I'm going to go further. Their self-titled album, which was their 4th album, all recorded by a guy named Sam Taylor. And if you make a mix CD, like a greatest hits of these albums, I'm trying to show you all at the same time. If you make a greatest hits of album of these CDs, you can't tell which song is from which album, because the production is that good and that similar. They just sound fantastic. But after they left Sam Taylor, they also did Dogman. So 5 albums in a row that are absolutely fantastic. That is my 2020 vinyl tag done in CDs. Thank you very much.